Hi, I'm Winifred. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I live in Ojai now, Ojai, California. I've been there for about 8 years, and I'm super grateful to call it my home. My very first practice was when I was living in Reno, Nevada, and I was at a charity auction, and one of the items that was offered at a charity auction was a yoga class, and it was advertised as yoga to the stars. Well, that was pretty cool, so I thought, okay, I'll go give it a whirl. So I made my way over, I bought the package, and I made my way over to the studio, and after the very first class, after that very first Shavasana, I was completely in love with yoga, and I went up and I signed up for a year membership. And I've been practicing ever since. When I very first started practicing yoga, I was an executive, a busy executive, and in many ways I had my identity wrapped up in being an art dealer. So my very first studio where I practiced and learned to teach was Bikram Yoga. And I started teaching in Reno, and again, sort of reluctantly really, because there was an opening for teachers, and I had just got back from teacher training, and the studio asked me to show up and teach. And when your teacher asks you to show up and teach, you show up and teach. And pretty quickly, though, I turned the corner and I began to really like it. It was super, super fun. And so I was merrily carrying around along in Reno, Nevada, teaching. And then a friend of mine who I'd been to Bikram training with called me from Singapore because there was an opening in the studio, and they had contracts in the Singapore studio whereby you would teach for, I think they wanted 6 months or a year, and because I was still heavy in my executive job, I couldn't take that much time off, but because of a lovely twist of fate, there was a month opening, and I could take a month, and I could do a month. And so I applied and sent them some videos, and they said yes, and then I went. And it was an amazing experience. And I felt like to be taken out of my environment and just submersed genuinely. Not that it wasn't genuine in Reno, but there was so much else going on. But when I had that month long in Singapore, you know, I only had like this much of a closet and this much outfit, and I was teaching every single day and practicing every single day. I started to get the rhythm of what it really felt like to be a yogi. I came back, and that was sort of the dismantling of a life I had at the time. I moved to Ojai about 10 years ago, and at the time I had been practicing yoga for a couple of years, and my practices were rather strong and a lot of hot yoga, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. And I wanted to, continue my practice of yoga, but when I first moved to Ojai, there was nothing powerful or hot or anything like that in the practices, at least that I could find. So I happened onto Lulu Bandha's in Ojai and started practicing with Kira and Ushi. They were some of my early Lulu's teachers. And the practices were very sweet and very gentle, which in the beginning were super hard for me to do because I wasn't really very sweet and gentle. But I liked them so much that I kept coming back. I kept coming back. And then a couple months into it, like relatively quickly, I began to notice the most amazing thing, that I became actually stronger and more flexible and more at ease with simply just following the alignment of love. Part of what has been awesome about the practice of yoga is that it's helped me touch into creativity on all levels. And so I've been writing. I don't know if I'll ever have the guts to publish it, but it's certainly a lot of fun to write, and it's a little book called Goodbye, Barbie. Because when I first moved to California, and I deepened my practice of yoga. It became super obvious to me, a little bit horrifying, a little bit shocking, that I was Barbie. You know, I had fake boobs out to here and long fake hair down to my waist, all fake fingernails, fake eyelashes. I drove a convertible and I lived near Malibu. And again, slowly, the practices of yoga, they just helped me feel more comfortable with my authentic self. And it's really through a practice of gratitude that, you know, I journal about these things. One of the things that is so apparent in the practices of yoga is that we're not alone. We can feel like we're alone because the experiences are so amazing and so magical and so surprising. And there's been times when I thought, I'm just a little crazy. But I have my yogi friends with whom I can talk and be myself, and I can tell them in a very real, genuine, authentic conversation, you know, what's happening, what's really happening with me. And it helps me see more clearly. It helps me be myself more deeply, more relaxing, more comfortable, and it reminds me that I'm not alone.